Hey there, welcome to the Exaltify Me podcast and to today's episode on why it is so hard to change. Okay, so if you have been following me for a little bit and what we are talking on this podcast, you know that we are diving deep into our psychology, into trauma, into everything that kind of makes us tick, and we feel like everything makes sense, our life is logical, every choice we make is based on foundations, right? And yet somehow we don't seem to be masters of our own lives. Now, I would argue it's even the opposite. I would argue that more than 90%, probably like 99% of things that we do, it's just an autopilot. It's just like already paved, and we seem that we have a choice, but we actually don't. Because we're pressured by many different factors from the outside, but also we're conditioned from the inside. Now, you will hear about habits, right? You will hear people talk about willpower, talk about how you can change, how you can put new patterns of behavior into place. And this is one angle to go about this. Now, I've been trying that for over 10 years, and I can tell you it's a really hard uphill battle. I have a background as a musician, so a musician is supposed to be practicing a lot, training a lot, so there's a lot of discipline involved, a lot of repetition. I would even argue more so than in most other fields, except for sports. I think also people who are in sports, they have to have a certain degree of mastery, of discipline, of just keeping at it to stay well placed. Well, why do most people struggle with these things? Why do they struggle with behavioral change? Why do they struggle with discipline? Why do they struggle to do the things that are supposedly good for them, right? Why aren't we all eating healthy? We all know how to eat healthy. We all know what's healthy food. We all know that we need movement, right? We all know that we should be doing more sports, go more outside, meet more people, reduce our screen time, sleep better, sleep more, declutter our space and everything. And yet we don't do that. In fact, most of the things we don't do ever. Have you ever asked yourself, why is this really? Like really? Just go and, take 5 or 10 minutes, take a blank piece of paper and start writing down. Go like, what are all the things that I was supposed to be doing or that I wish I would be doing, but for some reason I'm not doing? Let's go and write them down and you will see that most of the things that you do in your life, they aren't on the list. And the list is kind of pulling you away from what you're already doing. Now, again, many people will say, well, that's just habits. It's because you've paved this specific path over and over and over again in your life, right? You've repeated the same thing. That's why you can't move away from it, why it's so hard to change. And there's a lot of truth in that. We even know that our brain networks, like the neurons, they are formed by a process called myelination. So the more you do something, the thicker this neural network becomes, right? So you have like the neuron, and then it gets kind of like a tree, they have like these rings, and every year the tree grows, it gets another ring. Well, the same thing is with myelination, and I think it can go up to like 30 or 40 just like layers of myelination. So you get to have like a really strong neuron, and it's much faster when you fire it. It's kind of helping your thinking fast. It's helping your reaction go fast, and it's helping also to put processes in the subconscious so you don't have to always think about them. And this is how they based on behavioral change. This is how they based habits, right? Okay, so if you want to change something in your life that you do, you just need to change your behavior, right? Put a new habit into place. And that's what many are preaching. And in fact, I was thinking for a very long time that that's the whole game, right? We have our brain as a piece of hardware, and we just have to reprogram the software, and then it's just going to run. Again, part of it is true, but for most people it doesn't work because of one simple thing. And we are going to talk about why exactly. What's this one simple thing? It's that there is underlying motivation why you do the things you do, and it's not just behavioral. We have payoffs. We have secondary payoffs, like something that we get in return for not doing the thing we're supposed to do. Let's say I have a friend, he's always bringing up the example of going to the gym. If you have to do something that is really important, you have to go to the gym, right? Discipline yourself, go to the gym, make something good for you. And then we would talk about why wouldn't people go to the gym and then still feel good about that? Because there's a part of them that's really happy for them not going to the gym. And it could be the part that instead stayed home, got to munch a little bit of potato chips, or just to rest for a little bit, or something else. They're maybe just meeting some other need that they have as well. So it's fine for them to not go to the gym, and also they don't have this guilty conscience of not taking care of their body. Obviously, by hearing this, you go yeah, but that's not a balanced life. That's stupid. Because if they have another need that's not being met, it's not you cannot put it in the place of the gym and so on. And you're right. So one part of it is the secondary payoffs. But there's a really deep underlying motivational structure of why we do the things we do. And if you try to change your behavior without addressing these specific motivations, these specific things, the payoffs that you get from that behavior, and you see what you actually are seeking, what you're getting from it, and how you could maybe give yourself that in the future in, let's say, a more efficient way, or maybe even a more healthy way, right? If you don't address these things, whatever change you do in your behavior, and even if you grit your teeth and do these habit programs, right? The 90 days, I've done it, I pulled through, I paid the punishment of my money giving to somebody else, right? The positive and negative motivation that they do. I paid the money because I slipped for 3 days and didn't do it, but I did it for the other 87 days, right? Chances are high that you are going to slip back into your earlier behavior if you don't get to the cause. Now, how do we get to the cause? Again, by addressing what you get from that behavior. And oftentimes that's really dark, it's really selfish, and it's not something that we actually want to admit. So maybe you don't want to talk about this to other people. Maybe you want to just make a list for yourself, but it's really, really important for you, every one of us, to face the truth. To look at it directly in the eye and say, okay, this is the reason I'm doing it. I see what's going on. Without judgment, without fear, without anything. Just breathe into it and go that's the situation. That's what I'm doing. And then once you've done it, once you've seen what the actual motivation is, you can go really constructively about this. And I'll tell you another reason why. Not so long ago, I've heard about this theory that we have even more brains than the brain that we have in our head, just distributed throughout our bodies. And I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that. You've probably heard me talk about the triune brain theory, and sometimes they bring in a fourth element, right? So the reptilian brain that first grew in the back of our head, just above the spine, right? And then on top of that grew the mammalian brain, which is kind of all our emotions and everything on it. And the reptilian is the instincts, the basic fight and flight, feelings of hunger, thirst, like the basic regulations of the organism. And then on top of that, the neocortex, which allows us humans to do abstract things, to do like really complex thought processes, and so on. But apparently there is even more, right? So in a course that I have been doing, I learned from a psychology professor that we have brain-like structures all throughout our bodies, and especially around our heart and around our belly and the genital area as well. And these are kind of neural networks, so there's just like a lot of neurons coming together in one place, and they form like a almost autonomous feeling machine that kind of works within itself, and it communicates with the other brains or neural networks or whatever we have, right? Every one of them has a different task. Every one of them has like a different position, and depending on the time of day, depending on the state where we are, depending on how our situation is in life, right? One or the other will be more active. And I think that people knew this for a long time, right? When they're talking about like, I have this weird feeling in my belly, or getting a broken heart, or thinking with these other parts, there is something to it, because they are apparently autonomous to some degree, and they communicate with each other. And so we can have different parts of our bodies wanting different things. Do you see where I'm going with this? We can have different parts inside of ourselves going into different directions. And this is pulling us apart. So maybe one part wants something, but the other part wants something else, and the third part wants the third thing, and they're just scattered all over the place. So what you want to do is consolidate those. You really want to get into relationship with yourself, and to get a feeling for these parts, and to really address them, and to try and to feel into it, and just go like, what does this part want? What is this part's needs? And also maybe just take out a piece of paper and write it down, because these will obviously change. But once that you write it down, let's say in terms of a simple thing, like let's take the example of my friend again, going to the gym. Why don't you go to the gym? Well, maybe you will see the reasons. There are very valid reasons for not going to the gym, and maybe, just maybe, you can address these and put yourself into alignment. That's the most important takeaway for you from today. Why is change so difficult? Because we are not in alignment. We are splitting off parts of us that want something left or right. We're pretending like they aren't there, but in fact, they very much are. And not just that, they are ruling the show. Your brain isn't active 24/7. And especially your consciousness, like again, I think very much like 95 or maybe even 99%, we are being ruled by these autonomous processes. They're just like being in our bodies. And it's not just the neural networks in our brain, it's also other neural networks all throughout our bodies that want something. They have different wants, they have different needs, and we need to address all of them, and see where it goes. The more you are in alignment, the less energy you will spend throughout your day just trying to pull through and just trying to go to the next thing, so just your day can be finished, you can zone out until the next day starts, right? When you're able to get these parts together into communication, they can start to grow together, they can start to be creative, they can start to support each other. So you can have like a great gym session, and after it, I don't know, do whatever you want. Indulge in like a fancy meal or meet up with some friends instead of just going home and zoning out. And maybe you need to zone out. Maybe that's like what the parts are saying. Hey, I want just quiet and still. So then do that. Don't go sit on the sofa and hang on your phone and doom scroll yourself into oblivion. But then, if the messages go into stillness, then that's what you should do. That's it for today. It was a very short episode, but a very clear one. Why we can't change is because we're not in alignment. We're pulled in all different directions. So what you want to do is get yourself into alignment, address every little part of you that wants a different thing, get yourself working together as a team, support yourself, and I will see you in the next episode. Until then, don't forget to like, to subscribe, to leave me a comment if you took something away from today. I appreciate those, and I will see you in the next one.